Hello and welcome to Doctor Who Debrief. This is our journey into some classic Who mythology. We're having a great time. My name's Chris. To my right, your left, it's Phil.
Hello.
To my left, your right, it's Rob.
Hiya.
We just watched this. It's called The Sensorites. It stars William Hartnell. There's 6 parts to it. Rob, take us through what happened.
So the TARDIS lands in a spaceship where they find some humans who have been kind of hypnotised and brain controlled by the Sensorites, who they're initially scared of. Then they find out they're actually decent people. Make contact with, get talking, go down to the Sensorite planet, as one of the humans that they find is under some really brain-fried issues. The Sensorites are dying off, and the Doctor's like, I can help you if you let us go, because they've trapped the humans, they've trapped the TARDIS, the Sensorites are not letting anyone go anywhere. The Doctor's like, I know science, I can cure your people. Doctor goes underground, finds out it's deadly nightshade that is poisoned the water supply, so he comes up with a cure, and long story short, they find some other humans down there who have poisoned the water supply because they hate the Sensorites for capturing them. And the Doctor finds a cure for the water, they capture the other humans, the Sensorites are like, you did cure us after all, you're good people, everyone's happy.
So, it's an interesting set of episodes. It's been a while since we've been kind of to outer space in this weird alien capacity, because we have been to outer space with like Keys and Marinus, but there are a lot of humans in that. Phil, what were your general thoughts? Did you enjoy this batch?
Yeah, I did. I think it's getting progressively better, and I don't know if that's because in the production they're finding their feet, the writing they're finding their feet, but yeah, this didn't drag as much as a lot of the other ones have. This flowed quite well, and it apart from the last episode, which started to drag a little bit, but other than that, it was quite good, and I quite enjoyed it. It kept me hooked.
Rob, did you have general thoughts?
Yeah, I thought it was an interesting episode.
Didn't fall asleep this time, that's always good.
Didn't fall asleep.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was quite gripping. There was some really good tension build-up, some really tense moments, and the dynamic between the two species of humans and Sensorites, and the interdynamics within the species of the kind of humans versus humans and Sensorites versus Sensorites, and then humans teaming up with some Sensorites. I thought that was all really interesting, so really well written.
I think for me as well, it was interesting how across the 6 episodes we got very different styles. So it started off with this kind of like very much like a horror film vibe, like they're trapped on a spaceship, the Sensorites come in, they've got brain control, and then it moved into this kind of like political thriller almost, in the way that they sort of, the Sensorites stopped being just 2 kind of creepy beings and actually became the whole population they were in, and then it turned into this sort of interesting dynamic at the end with the humans and the sort of rebellion they were having and this kind of long-running war they were fighting. So yeah, we had a nice range of styles as well, which was quite interesting, because we haven't had that really. They've all been quite similar so far, whereas this is the first one where they've shown different genres. Can we pick out like an individual highlight, Rob? Is there sort of one thing that stood out?
I think the whole idea of the Sensorites was brilliant. So the first 2 episodes, they started out as unknown creatures, and they looked scary, and everyone was initially scared of them. And then it turns out they're actually quite timid and intelligent. And I found that really interesting, and I think they're probably my favourite of the creatures of the classic Who that we've seen so far. So I think the moment, I think it was at episode 2, when we find out that the Sensorites are not actually things to be scared of, they're actually scared of humans. I think that was probably the highlight for me, when the dynamic flipped, even though the creatures stayed the same. That shifted the whole story arc.
They're the type of things you could see being brought back as well,
Yeah.
I think. Like, I'm surprised we've not seen them in New Who, because, you know, that kind of brain control.
Although we have seen a very close relative of theirs in New Who too, because the Ood are, and this has been revealed on the screen, from the same solar system.
Really?
The Ood come from the Ood sphere. They come from the Sense sphere. They are in the same solar system, because they've got a kind of similar look to them as well.
They do all the thought speak stuff as well.
They've got a dangly thing coming off, which they put to their heads, and the Ood have this orb thing. But yeah, they are, you know, quite
I can see
similarly,
that.
they're related.
Do you have another highlight, Phil? Something that particularly stood out?
Oh, well, I think like Rob, I quite liked the society of the Sensorites. It's complex, which we haven't really seen before in the alien species we've got. The alien species we've seen so far have been, well, this species is a bad species. They are evil, the Daleks, and the weird brain things with the stalks. You know, every one of their other alien species we've seen, all of the members of that species are bad guys. Whereas in this one, it's much more complex. They're a society. They have differing views on things. Like they're scared because they're all dying, and they're blaming the humans for this. Some of them, and then there's other ones of them that want to work with the humans. And I think it's quite nice to have that where they're not just, oh, this species is evil.
For me, my highlight, I think this is the first time we've seen the group kind of come together a lot and show their different strengths. Because when Susan works out, she can start doing all the kind of like the mind shouting at them and stuff. That was so good. She has a tendency to be a bit whiny, and like they play her off as just sort of a bit weak. Whereas Anish, she took like the initiative a lot more, and I thought that was really nice, especially because she is the Doctor's granddaughter. So you're expecting her to have this kind of her to be able to make these kind of heroic moves.
It's so nice for her not to be the whiny, screamy one.
Exactly.
For a change, which she has been in pretty much every serial so far.
Because even when she gets, captured and cornered, she thinks of a way out of it, and I thought that was really good. Phil, what was your particular lowlight?
The sheer amount of line fluffs which got left in. Oh my! Whether or not it was the Sensorites tripping over lines or the Doctor. I mean, we're kind of used to it with the Doctor. He pretty much does. William Hartnell, I think, it's well known that he struggled to remember his lines. He even had, apparently, them put up on the opposite side of the set so that he could read them while he was doing it. Yeah.
We should get that for
we should do, just get them up on the wall over there. But so that's quite well known. He was advancing in age, but in this one, not just him. The human pilots from the human ship were all doing it. The Sensorites were all doing it. I think possibly Barbara fluffed a line once. It was just all over the place. Every episode there were line fluffs.
We must look after him. Let's see now.
At the disposal of the man called the Doctor.
Remember the senior scientist drawing it in the laboratory.
Yeah, it's the antidote. I'm going to find the first elder, scientist rather.
I heard them talking.
For me, there were too many Sensorites that looked the same, and they would swap clothes, and I just couldn't keep up with which Sensorite was dressed as which Sensorite, who was actually good and who was bad among the Sensorites, because they all looked the same. And that was, we struggled to keep up, didn't we? Sometimes we were like, so is that actually him, or is he dressed as him and pretending to be good?
It was very hard to tell who was... At one point, I gave off a round of applause, because I was like, oh yes, this guy's just got in power, and then you two had to correct me and be like, no, he's actually a bad guy. I just didn't realise, because they were the same.
The bad one dressed as the good one.
Yeah, so I think that was a bit of a low light for me as well. It does become a bit hard to tell what's going on sometimes. Time now on the show to do a little thing we call Doctor Who Debuts. Now, because we're watching the very, very old episodes, we like to spot things that later pop up either in later Classic Who or in New Who as well, kind of seeds that get planted and are grown into beautiful flowers. Phil, Rob, did you spot any beautiful flower seeds?
Yes, although they still didn't name the planet, they still haven't revealed the name of the planet. Susan refers to what we later know is Gallifrey, their home planet, and specifically she refers to the burnt orange sky, which, as we've seen in New Who now, is still how it's portrayed to this day. That lovely orange background that you see when you see the citadel on Gallifrey. That was the origin of it. That's her saying that line, and I think they stuck with that description for most of the time. I don't think they changed it.
Great spot.
Yeah.
Rob?
What's that?
We saw for the first time the kind of one set opener and tension build up and the fear of the unknown, and then because that is quite often used in New Who, like they'll land in a spaceship or in a space centre and it's dark outside and they don't know what's happening and there's a mystery creature lurking and that kind of tension build up. But then also we sometimes see in New Who the flip that I mentioned earlier of the creature actually turning out to be good or actually turning out to be scared. Like so many aliens that we meet in New Who that we're initially scared of, and then the Doctor's like, oh hang on, they're just misunderstood. We've not really had that yet, and that later on I think becomes quite a common plot device in New Who.
Is this the first time that the sort of Time Lord's slightly psychic, telepathic abilities have been revealed? Because Susan communicates with her mind with the Sensorites, and the Doctor hints that he can sometimes read surface level thoughts of his companions. I think that's the first time that the Time Lord's slight telepathic
He's
abilities.
done that thing, hasn't he, where he puts his hand on their head and they share that kind of... I'm sure David Tennant did
David
that.
Tennant's done that, yeah.
Yeah.
David Tennant has done that, yeah. So, it's firmly established now that the Time Lords have, low-level telepathic abilities. And there's a link between them and the TARDIS, which is sentient in that way as well. But I think this might have been the first hint of it.
Time now. Lower your heads for a second as we do Hoology. Right, Hoology is just the part where we kind of pay a little bit of tribute to someone or something that has passed away in the episode, either a character or a concept.
Rest in peace.
Does anyone have anything to share with the congregation? Rob?
It has to be our boy, the second in command of the psychic people, who got killed by the bad one, and then the bad one dressed up as him and pretended to him and threw his weight around. But he went out in style, he went out in true Ian style, he had a bit of a scrap, he broke a piece of machinery, threw a guy against a cardboard wall.
Bent a key in half.
It was just great. He went out in true style, and I respect that.
Stop him, you fool!
Rest in peace.
I think the dignity of the actors that had to wear the Sensorite costumes, those were not flattering costumes. If you had any sort of bulginess in your body at all in any areas, that was
Interesting
very
biology with the Sensorites, I suppose.
well seen amongst the very tight-fitting unitardy type thing that they
Quite
were
warm in
wearing.
that studio.
Yeah, it's their dignity is firmly gone. Those actors, at least their faces were covered, I suppose. Save them a bit.
I'm gonna pay tribute to the neutrality of the human race, because it's kind of a debut as well. But before now, humans have been fairly good in this, but this is the first time that we've seen humans go somewhere and be the aggressors. So I kind of pay tribute to lovely humans who before were nice, and now we see the greedy side of humanity coming.
There were nice humans in it as well.
Yeah, true, but
there
some
were
of them
also
were kind of a bit rebellion, weren't they? Bit
Yeah.
guerrilla warfare, Nightshade in the water. Yeah, it was a very interesting set of episodes, wasn't it? Lots to be said. If you want to catch up with any of our previous episodes, then you can click Rob's face. Or if you want to subscribe so that every week when we post one of these, right up to the lead up of the Doctor Who Christmas special, you can click Phil's face. Click my face if you just want to, practice your index finger. DVD, widely available, so you can, you can order it. It just looks like this. Thanks very much, Phil. Thanks very much, Rob. Thanks very much, Chris. No problem, guys. We'll be back next week for more Doctor Who Debrief.